we won't get underway with the content just yet. We'll give people a chance to jump online. But I can see most people are putting themselves on mute. Thank you very much. Just ask if you would pop yourself on mute for the first part. If you do have a question, then by all means, go off mute and ask away. This is definitely a session to get your questions, to get the information that you need to put in a good nomination. So please go ahead, ask away if you have questions. We will also have a dedicated question and answer session at the end. So the last thing I'll say about questions is don't want to hark on about it too much, but if you've got a question, then chances are someone else will have the same question. Even if they're not on this webinar live with us this morning, a lot of people will be watching the recording. So they'll probably have those questions, but they won't have a chance to ask them because they'll be watching it after the fact. So ask away, and you'll be doing someone else a favor as well. So while we wait for anyone else who wants to join last minute, just quickly pop into the chat and let me know where you're joining us from so that we can find out whereabouts from the New South Wales, the ACT, people are from, who's nominating and things like that. Love to hear from you. So for those who have joined the call and they're wanting to find out a bit more about the awards, because maybe you've been nominated and maybe you're not fully aware of what's going on, the Community Achievement Awards were actually started in 2002. So they've been running now for coming up to 25 years, which is amazing. And the whole purpose of the awards is to celebrate amazing stories of community champions, local legends, businesses, organizations, not-for-profits who are doing their part in the community. And too often these stories are just glossed over or not shared at all. So it's all about celebrating those community activities and contributions, which is all you guys are doing, and trying to inspire others to get involved too. So we've got a few people saying the Inner West. We've got Gadigal and Eora country. Thank you very much. And yeah, it's a good reminder that we do all acknowledge the country we're meeting on today and pay respect to our elders past and present. And I say, let's get cracking so we don't keep you all too long and get a bit of time back in your day. But essentially, what we're talking about today is how to make your nomination in the Community Achievement Awards stand out. We know that all of you are doing incredible things, and so often we have the judging process take place, and afterwards people say, oh, I nominated so-and-so, but they weren't a finalist. Like, what's going on? They're amazing. And then we look at the nomination and we can see there's only a little bit of information in there. There's no nothing for the judges to go off, and they do need to base their selections on the nomination. So we have to make that stand out. And a quick reminder that the deadline for nominations is Wednesday, 10th of September. So we still have plenty of time. Alrighty, some topics we'll cover in this webinar, why it's worth taking the time to submit. And this hasn't got its own slides, so I'll quickly talk about that now. We're all very busy in our day-to-day lives. Busyness at the moment, I'd say, is the number one stressor because we've got so many things to check. I don't know if you're like me, you get notifications on Teams, email, text, phone calls, people knocking on your door in your office or wherever it is. There's so much stuff to do, and that's just at work. Thinking about the things we do in the community, our volunteering, our families, these all take up a lot of time. So we understand that people can be quite time poor, but hopefully you can take the learnings from this webinar and really put that into a solid hour, 2 hours. It's all you should need to put in a top nomination. So we just got to put that time in. And the reason why it's worth is from our team, we do a whole bunch of things behind the scenes that some people don't know about to promote your nomination. So once you submit the nomination, we'll invite you to fill out a form, a very quick one, I promise, not a 1 or 2 hour form, a 1 or 2 minute form. That's just giving us permission to feature your nomination on our social media channels. And we love doing that. And it just gets some great recognition for your nomination, which is important, especially for community organizations and community kind of projects. We want to share that and promote that really highly. And for businesses doing something in the community, that's also really important. And it's free marketing. So on top of that, we will send a media release to your local paper if you have selected the local paper field in the nomination form. And that's great because they're looking for stories to promote local stories. And again, it's just putting out those positive stories. So there's a few things. On top of that as well, the gala dinner, which will be later in the year. All nominees are invited to attend, and anyone who's there, who's been nominated, will be presented up on stage. And our MC will read out a great little bio on them, and it is a wonderful moment for reflection and celebration. All right, back to the topics we'll cover. So we'll go over some practical tips from the awards team. So, myself, I've been doing these awards now for 12 years, and a few of our other team members have been, for many years and done lots of different awards. We've got great experience on, nominations and how it works, but we're not the judges. We have nothing to do with judging other than bringing them together and letting them do their work. So, importantly, we'll also discuss what a judge is looking for. We've asked a bunch of our different judges for their top tips and what they look for in a great nomination, and we're going to share them with you. We'll talk about the next steps, what happens after you hit that submit button, and throughout the awards process. And lastly, we will have that dedicated Q&A session. So let's move on. Practical tips from the awards team. So some of these are a bit boring, but they're practical. That's just why they're good. So the first one is about using Google Chrome as your browser. So obviously the nomination form is online, and as with all things online, sometimes a form might time out. Sometimes, for whatever reason, your internet connection isn't great. So we suggest using Google Chrome. A lot of people already use that, or they're using Microsoft Edge or something like that. But we find that the nomination form is optimized for Google Chrome. So it's just a little one that we suggest. Talking about the nomination form, make sure you're constantly clicking Save Draft. So once you log in or open up the form for the first time, if you scroll down to the bottom, there's a Save Draft button, and that just saves your progress as you go. So I definitely would not recommend leaving the form idle on your computer for a long period, because it can time out, just like any form can. Just like anything where you're logged in, it can log you out. So you don't lose your progress, hit that Save Draft button as you go. The next tip I have for you, hi, Jill's joining from the car, well done. That's awesome. The next tip I have is to ensure your name's listed how you want to be referred to on your certificate, meaning the nomination certificate. And furthermore, that name is then used to, we use it for media releases, we use it for the awards night when we announcing, your nomination. So, if you've got in there, if you're an individual and you have your first name, middle name, and surname listed, and that's not normally how you're referred to, then just keep that in mind and remove the middle name, for example. Or some people have their nickname in the nomination, and that's totally fine. If that's how you want to be referred to, go ahead. But just have a little think about that. And I'd say it's even more pertinent for organizations and businesses and groups, just to make sure that it's listed correctly. If you've got a organization and you're nominating one program, have the organization name hyphen program name. I think that's a good way to do it. Next tip is to write the answers in the way you feel comfortable. So if you're an individual and you've been nominated, and someone has written a little testimonial about you and it's in the third person, Jill is amazing, Jill is great, you might find it weird then to start writing in the first person. But it's okay to do however you're comfortable with. Don't worry about it too much, because the judges aren't concerned. I think the only thing that will be a bit weird is if you yourself keep switching it. So I get that question a lot. So I'd say, don't worry about it. It's not a big deal. Just write how you feel comfortable, because that's going to come across a lot better. And the number one, thing I'd like to tell you about that is to inject your personality, because if you think about a judge who might be reading 20, 30 more nominations, in a session of judging, if they're reading very formal English, very plain, boring way of writing, then it's going to be hard to get through all those nominations. If your nomination is got some humor, or you just write in a certain way, it's going to stand out to them, because they'll be like, oh wow, they really feel like they're talking to me. So that's okay. You can kind of tell a story with your nomination. It doesn't have to be plain Jane, and also jargon. You wouldn't want to really use lots of acronyms if you haven't explained what they are. And then the next practical tip, this is probably our favorite one because it's in the terms and conditions of the award, but a lot of people skip over it, is that you can actually enter 2 award categories. Now, any time we can double our chances of something, it's always a good idea, right? So, and plus we have a lot of people who ask, oh, which category? I'm not sure between these 2. Why not both? Remember that old Mexican ad, was it Old El Paso or Dolmio, whatever it is, doesn't matter, but enter into both. Why not? Once, I'd say, focus on the first one, write the first nomination up, submit it, then use that as a basis for the second one. rather than trying to flip between two all the time. All right, this is the good stuff. What are the judges looking for? I've got a quick question. Just make sure I can answer this one. Yes, exactly. I wish I could speak Spanish better. Porque no los dos. That was bad. But thanks, Jill. So what are the judges looking for? So again, we've asked the judges, they've given us their direct feedback. So these are the top tips here. Number one is to provide at least one referee. So on the nomination form, there's space for 2 referees to be listed. And these are someone you'd be comfortable with the judges contacting for further information if they need it. Now, these referees do more than that as well, because if you think about it, if you want to trust what someone's saying, for example, then sometimes you might ask someone, oh, do you know this person? What are they like? It's the same thing with the nomination. So if you are nominating your own group, you might be secretary of the organization and you're nominating them into the awards. Your details are on the form, you're writing about the group. That's all well and great. But a judge might slightly question, okay, there's only one person listed. They talk about having a big community impact, but there's no one else mentioned in this form who can back that up. So one way to switch that would be you list yourself as the nominator, and maybe you have someone else from the organization in the nominee contact details. So now you've got 2 people listed. Then you have 2 referees, so usually from outside of the group, but someone who knows you. It could be as formal as a local MP, or it could be as informal as just one of the community participants who's been a volunteer with you or who knows your group and happy to talk about you in a positive way. And then to take that tip of providing a referee to the next level, ask that referee for a small letter of support. So that sounds fancy, a letter of support, but all that is a paragraph. They can email it to you, you can PDF it and attach it to the nomination. This takes a referee on a form, just a contact detail, to something really powerful that shows the judges, they are resonating with the community, they are making a big impact, and people are happy to talk about that. So if you take nothing else from this webinar, take that one away, please, and grab a referee for your nomination form. Ask them if that's okay, and ask them to provide a little testimonial. So speaking of attaching, I mentioned that before. I'll just quick question here. Are we able to supply referee letters for more than 2? That is a very good question. I didn't mean to skip over that. So yeah, you can. There's and that's actually a nice segue here to this next tip. Use the attachments as evidence. You can attach up to 10 supporting documents. So you could have a PDF of 5, 10 testimonials. If you are a business that already is gaining testimonials from Google reviews, those kind of things, you can link to those reviews. So there's really creative ways where you can, go above and beyond and add more. Obviously, I'm not wanting you to spend hours and hours and hours on this, so try and do it in an easy way. But yeah, you can attach more than one. And so with those documents that you can upload to support your nomination, if you're not sure what to attach, then I always encourage you to think of it as evidence to back up the written answers in the questions. So if you provided a bit of detail about your community group and you've, say just a really easy examples of you're a surf lifesaving club and you've got, all these volunteers for your nippers program and all this stuff, show some photos of those volunteers at the nippers program, or you can have a video or something like that. Unfortunately, you can't upload a video, but you can link to it. So use links to your social media, use photos. For example, the local paper, they came down to cover your community event, attach a clipping from that news story to show that event took place and that it was really good. So that's kind of what I mean by use the attachments as evidence. And the judges have told us time and time again, that is huge, because it takes it from a statement in the question box of the nomination form to a visual element to showing that stuff really happened and took place. The next one here is to refer to the category description. And I think an easy way to fill out your nominations is to use info on your website, to use information on grants you've applied for, that kind of stuff. But if it doesn't relate back to the award category you're nominating in, or even the question you're answering, it can, I suppose, miss the mark a little bit. So it's totally okay to use info you've already got, copy pasted in. Sometimes it's as easy as a one sentence at the start to link that information you're providing. So, an example would be if the question says, describe, who benefits from this community activity, and you might have some general information. Instead of just plonking it straight in there, you could say, this excerpt is from our end of program report. It really shows the people in the community who are benefiting from our actions. And then you pop that in and it just makes complete sense. So refer back to the category description. Also, if you're nominating in two categories, sometimes people forget, to make the information suit the award category. They're using the exact same info across two nominations. So just if you're ever stuck on what to write, or you're thinking, am I really addressing the criteria, just go back, reread the category description, reread the questions, and it should hopefully start to make sense. This next one is a bit harder to provide specific examples, but we have heard it quite a lot, is to showcase your purpose and your impact. And I think the easiest way I can describe this is that with whatever you're doing in the community, whatever you're doing with your business and organization, you clearly know why you're doing it. You know the purpose behind it. So don't forget to make that obvious to the judges, because sometimes if it's, in the niche field or a specific area, or it's a really like micro-focused activity, it might not be as clear to the judges, why you're doing that, what the purpose is. So really explain that. Our judges are very clever. They're very amazing, but we've always got to, when we're writing things like this, treat them like they don't know what they're talking about, so that we can bring them on the journey and explain it for them. And your impact as well, I think, is really important, because if you're talking generically, like we've helped a lot of people in our community, then it's a little wishy-washy. So we've got to try and show who we're impacting, why it's important, that kind of stuff. And really that feeds into the next tip as well, about being specific where you can. So try and give numbers if you have them. If you've run a community event, rather than say we had a great event, a lot of people, say how many came. We've had a lot of volunteers that help us, say how many volunteers you've got, that kind of stuff. So just try and be specific where you can, because it will help, it really will. Alrighty, so if you have any questions, ask away. You can save it for the end, or just jump in now, up to you. But we will just move on for the moment. What are the next steps in the awards? So this is probably our next common question. People hit submit and then they go, oh, I wonder what happens now. So after you hit that submit button, and I'll go back one step. At the bottom of the form earlier, I did say there's the save draft button that saves as you go. Once you press submit, it does log you out of the nomination. However, you aren't locked out. So there is, I suppose, that difference to understand. You can log back in using the exact same login details that you've been emailed, and you can edit your nomination. But importantly, that's up until the closing date of 10th of September. So at that time, the nomination form will close, and you'll still be able to log in and view it, but you won't be able to update it and edit it. So sometimes people, I think a common one we hear is you've filled out all the questions, you've filled out your referees, but maybe you took my advice. Maybe you have asked your referee for a letter of support and you're waiting for that to come back. Rather than, I suppose, not submitting and waiting, what if the letter of support never comes? I would suggest submit the nomination. Then you can wait in the background, and when that letter of support comes, you can log back in and upload it then. That way you don't miss out. You can rest at ease, but you can update it later. So the other good thing about submitting early is you do get sent that form for the nomination, for the nominee snapshot, which is us wanting to feature you on our socials. If you wait until the 10th of September, human nature is everyone else is probably waiting until the 10th of September to submit their nominations, and we'll get inundated with those requests for the nominee snapshots, and we won't be able to feature everyone. So the earlier you submit, the more chance we'll have to feature your nominee snapshot, which is kind of that tip just there. And of course, the judging process will get underway. So our team does our own quality assurance. We're reading over things to make sure, that the nominations are eligible. We think it's the right category, that kind of stuff. So occasionally we'll reach out to people to seek a bit of clarity on things. But not long after that is the judging process starting. Our expert judges for each category, they start their review process. So, you know, I guess piece of advice there is to make sure you're following our social media channels. So you can see your nominee snapshot go live if it goes up. You know, you can find out who some of the judges are because we start featuring some of the judges, and it'll be the best place to get the latest up-to-date info on your nomination and the judging process. And of course, exciting stuff after that. I haven't got a little dot point here for it, but we've got our awards gala dinner. So, you know, that'll be coming up as well. And that's super fun. So we'll be holding that on Saturday, 29th of November. So keep that on free in your calendars. And I think the most exciting part is Shangri-La Sydney has come on board to partner with us for this event. It's an extremely fancy, amazing hotel. But this is going to be a much cheaper gala dinner than your normal charity balls and those kind of things. You can expect those tickets to be $300, but ours are about half that price. So this is an amazing chance to come to a very glammed event at much less of a price than you'd normally expect. And plus, as I said before, if you are you're here in this call, you've been nominated, you're a nominee, regardless of the judging results, you'll be presented at that awards night, which is really cool. Alrighty, let's move on to the Q&A. So if you've got a question, feel free to ask away. There is no right or wrong question, no silly questions at all, because as I said before, the people who watch this later, they won't have a chance to ask these questions. So if you've got your question, they may also, you know, have had a similar thought and a similar question. So either jump off mute and fire away, or pop it into the chat. But while we're waiting for anyone to ask a question, just a reminder that nominations do close on the 10th of September. It's not far away, but there's still enough time for us to do plenty of work. And we've got all the award categories here. These are the ones that are available. And this is a chance as well to look at, oh yeah, which one might be a good second award category for me. And I suppose sometimes people, you know, we have had a few questions around this category, the Small Business Community Ally Award. So that's not for small businesses, actually. That category is for not-for-profits and charities who are supporting small business. So we do have the Small Business Award for any of those small businesses who are nominated. And if you need any, you know, further information on these awards, obviously at our website, communityachievementawards.org, you can click the categories and entry criteria button, and that's going to have a lot of information on each of these award categories. So you can find out which one is the right one, you know, whether it's your second category or I've got a question, go ahead, whoever that is.
It's Jill here, Josh. So not that I'm thinking of it, but how many awards, how many categories can you go for?
2 maximum.
Okay.
So, you know, there's a few reasons around that. We don't want someone nominating in every single award category, and they shouldn't be, because they shouldn't be eligible for all of them. But we feel that 2 is a good number. It gives people a double chance if they'd like to, especially if some of the categories are a little similar and they don't want to just, you know, they're umming and ahhing which one. And it gives us a chance to recognise people across all different categories. So it's not, you know, someone in all categories, that kind of thing.
Yeah. So we're a not-for-profit that runs a social enterprise.
Yep.
Would that come under small business and family enterprise?
Yes. So a social enterprise is, you know, counted as a business. So I'd say the Small Business Award would be a really good one. But then the not-for-profit could also be in the, you know, depending on what you do, you could be in the Small Business Ally Award, or maybe the Connecting Communities Award. So, and you know,
have a look at the website.
Yeah, and that's for the business. So the business, sorry, the you know, the group, that's technically only 1 nomination each. So, you know, you could be a bit cheeky and have the you know, the CEO could be entered in the leadership award as well. So it's not about limiting someone, but it is about kind of trying to spread the one group isn't winning all 8 award categories. That's terrible.
And I just have one more while I'm here. Did you say the event was the 29th of November?
Yes, Saturday, 29th of November.
Okay, great. Thanks, Josh.
No worries. Jez, JES Easy Kickball. Go ahead.
Hi, Jess here, pronouncing him. We're a nonprofit that obviously was nominated for the community aspect of it, but one of our key outcomes is to improve mental health and well-being of our members, and we have a lot of programming around that. Though I've noticed that our applications are quite, I mean, it's a lot of the same information because it uses the same justifications. Would you advise that a dramatically different application? I know that you said you can just change the first sentence, but I'm curious to see if it looks too similar, if that would be knocked against you.
Really, very good question. So you can use largely the same information. It's okay if the questions make sense for you to use the same information. And as you said, the outcomes are quite are the same. They are judged independently by the category judges. So there's the way the judging works is there's two judges that they only review your category, well, one category. So for example, the Health and Wellbeing Award, and there'll be two different judges judging the Connecting Communities Award. That said, there's also an executive panel that judges across all the categories. So they'll see both. But, again, if you just have some slight different things, just so it makes real sense that you're in the two different categories, I think it'll be absolutely fine. And what will happen is, this is the whole thing about doubling your chance. If the nomination does suit one of those categories better, that'll just become evident through the judging process. So it is about, I guess, giving you a double chance in a way, and putting in two largely same nominations will still give you that double chance.
And have you seen people win multiple awards?
Win multiple awards. With our award, the whole ethos is celebrating as many community champions as possible. So no, you won't win multiple awards. Generally what will happen, the panel will prioritize one of the nominations. And again, that's about doubling the chance. But who's to say? I'm not one of the judges, so they might deem a nomination so worthy that they'd like them to win 2 awards. So it's certainly possible, but typically they'll say this is the best fit for this category and prioritize you there. I hope that answers your question.
Very helpful, thank you.
All right, so there's a question here about organization nominated for the Community Small Business Award. A lot of the questions seem to relate to a safety initiative. How does this relate to the community achievement? Okay, so yeah, that is tough if you've got specific questions and they're stumping you a little bit. What I'd suggest is to get in touch with the team straight after this call, and I'll just pop our email in. So it's CAA@awardsaustralia.com. Get in touch with us for that kind of tailored specific advice, because we're really happy to provide that one-on-one support to people. It's probably easier to do that on a one-on-one basis here than the public forum. So yeah, certainly pick our brains, go through some of those questions for sure, because that can be tricky. Oh, and Emily also put her mobile number in, even better. So you can check the chat and find her mobile. And there was a question there about ticketing as well. It's a really valid question. So what we do is, Emily touched on it in the chat, or someone did, one of our team members, is we're able to subsidize tickets for our finalists, our semi-finalists and nominees. So we can't, unfortunately, I wish we had the funding to make it a free entry event, but that's not quite possible. So like I said, if you think, if you go out for dinner, you'll spend probably more than coming to this event. I'd suggest maybe, and you're at the Shangri-La Sydney, it's going to be amazing. It's a huge community celebration. The event will be covered by 7 News. We'll have a 7 News presenter that you see on the telly. They'll be there emceeing the event. And as I said, the event will be covered on 7 News. So especially if you're a winner, you'll be featured in that news story. And if you're a winner as well, you're actually going to be featured in a TV ad that goes across the 7 network for over a month. So that is pretty awesome. And if you're not there, obviously you won't be in that ad. So it's a really cool chance to kind of get there. The networking that happens at the gala dinner as well is invaluable. And of course, I would say that, as the general manager of the awards, but it's the feedback we get from everyone after the event is that it's such a powerful, positive and rewarding experience, and that you get to meet people like, the Ombudsman of the Australian Small Business and Family Enterprise, if you're in the business sphere, Bruce Bilson, people like that, that amazing community and corporate leaders who are there supporting those awards. So yeah, it is pretty cool. I highly recommend it. Don't take my word for it. You can always ask someone if you know, one of the previous winners or finalists, ask for their experience of it as well. All right, looks like we might have no more questions. Feel free to get in touch with us after this call, and especially as you sit down to go and put the nominations in, more questions will pop up. That's always the way. So get in touch with us. Our favorite part of the job is getting to chat to people, hear their stories, and then help them put in a great nomination so that their story gets a chance to be shared further. That's definitely so rewarding for us. Oh, that's a good tip, actually. Someone from the team, awards team, just said, I had a previous finalist who kicked herself afterwards for not bringing a business card. You had to write her details on a napkin. That's true. That is funny, actually. It does happen. And also don't forget, if you're on LinkedIn, that is the digital business card, essentially. I'd suggest walking around with a little LinkedIn QR code to get everyone's details connect. Thanks, everyone. Have a great rest of your day. Happy nominating. Can't wait to see all your nominations being submitted, reading the stories, and sharing your nominee snapshots and getting your media releases out to the local papers. That's what it's all about. So have a great one. We'll hopefully talk to you soon. Have a great rest of the day. See you later.